All right, good evening everyone. This video is going to be a trading review and support session for March the 15th, 2023. We had another pretty high volume day today, pretty volatile. We're getting some interesting news with what's going on. And we had, as expected, we had producer price index this morning. And ironically enough, it really wasn't the producer price index that was moving the market around a lot. So at 5:30, we had core PPI, which was actually lower than forecast. That's kind of good in terms of fighting inflation. And PPI month to month was actually a little negative against a positive forecast. So PPI was kind of cooperating in terms of trying to get inflation in check. But with the rise in interest rates, we were talking about that this morning, is that we've had a couple of few bank failures. Regional type, smaller kind of banks, maybe even specialty kind of banks. The first one was the Silicon Valley Bank in San Jose, and basically the scenario is with interest rates rising, bonds have been declining, and people have been moving around money out of low interest rate kind of instruments into higher interest rate kind of instruments, and for the banks to be able to handle the liquidity for that, they've actually had to sell some of their investment portfolio to meet liquidity requirements. And that was the biggest deal at Silicon Valley Bank. The bigger banks say they're all okay, but the Feds had to step in and guarantee some liquidity at some of these smaller banks. Silicon Valley Bank being the primary one. First Republic, I believe, is another one, and there's some other ones that maybe had some crypto assets, which is strange. So of course, what's really they're going to be starting talking about regulation again, right? So that's kind of what's going on. But volatility is a good thing for us, right? So independent of whatever investments we may have, volatility in the futures market is we're able to produce some profits, and it's been a pretty good week. I didn't trade a lot today. I didn't sleep that well last night, so I kind of took my own advice. I did take another couple of trades later on in the day, but anyway, let's kind of go through what we did. So let's start with looking at the daily again, and we'll see how we ended. So we ended the day negative, and we were much further down. So let's just kind of take a look and see how the day went in terms of the big picture chart. That's a little bit easier to do. So with the Silicon Valley Bank and the volatility and that kind of stuff, London opened about here. We were looking at this morning, kind of played around with it, and then it really took a dive, right? Really took a dive in the first few hours, practically straight down, down to S2 during the middle of the London session. And then we had the 5:30 news. I mean, the big move had already happened by that time. So here comes the 5:30 news about here, briefly up, and then came back down to make a new low. And so back and forth today, right? And then ultimately, back the close. This was yesterday's low, right? So we did close above yesterday's low, but below yesterday's close. So that was kind of the scenario there. So we opened. Let's see, where's the open? Opened up, kind of coming around the from the Globex low back through the 25% lower line. So actually, even though it was pretty big down day, most of my trades today were to the long side. We'll get into that in just a second. So let me minimize that. And here's the opening time frame. And here's the first trade, right? Everything's going with the flexes, and we're popping over mid S2, I believe at this point. I think this is S1, yesterday's low. So that was one trade. Continuing, pull back to the EMA, touched the 25% lower line again, popped up. This was an in and out very quickly, right? In and out in the same 5-second bar in that one. Same scenario here, right? So this is pushing it a little bit, right? I mean, I did bring the edge of the EMA down some, but in and out on that one, and then in and out on this one as well. So big, 4 points in the first, 5 minutes or so. Let it settle out from there. And like I said, I wasn't feeling really, really great. So I was already thinking about how much I wanted to trade today. Took this trade right after it came back down and tested the open. Where I had a couple of pretty good bars. I kind of waited and I was kind of wondering how much more I was going to trade. So kind of took this one. It probably would have been better if I'd taken it in here, anywhere in here, right? I waited until it kind of crossed the slow flex. But anyway, I mean, the market was still up. I had to add to it, right? So I added, entered in up near this little pivot high. Didn't know it was going to be the pivot high then, but it turns out it was the pivot high. Then it pulled back to the EMA, had a pretty good response coming from the EMA, so I added to it somewhere in here, right, and got out of both units, and I think I got actually maybe 1.5, 2 points worth of profit on that trade in total. And so now I am really starting to wonder, so I think I even walked away for a bit. So I no trade in here for me, but this would have been a great trade, right? Would have been out very quickly. I think I took a walk because I was thinking about how much I wanted to trade today. I don't know about this short. It was kind of breaking down through these pivots area in here. So, but I did ultimately take a trade a little bit later on after it kind of established itself, right? It kind of established itself that it was willing to go under VWAP back up to the EMA. Maybe it was a little bit late. Right, I was in here and out there. It rushed down to the 2x20, right? So that was one short trade. So right now I'm 4 longs and 1 short. So let's go back through. I think I got one more trade or 1 or 2 more trades. Here, I'm choosing. I think I walked away again, right? I'm choosing not to. This would have been an interesting trade, but I don't know. Going into the I'm already up quite a bit. Going into the volume point of control would have been a little bit risky. And it isn't quite pushed time frame yet. So here comes after 7 o'clock. The news wasn't necessarily bad, but it was another one of those pretty quick kind of trades. And this was the last one I took. It was in and out, and the scale here is kind of hard. I mean, so I'm in relatively close to the bottom, but I did get out for 1 point. And at that point, since I was kind of pushing a little bit, wasn't feeling that well. That was my last trade of the morning. So 7.5 points. Didn't trade again until after about 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I don't think so. But anyway, got a couple more points, finished at 9.5 points gross for the day. But I mean, even if you didn't take the same trades I did, right? This one was a pretty interesting trade. 7x accumulation followed by a 3x accumulation, heading in the right direction. That would have been good. If you were fast, right? This one would have been maybe okay. I mean, the thing about it is, the higher the volume and the higher the volatility, you're a little bit safer, right, getting into the EMA band if you're up for it, right? I mean, that one that I traded, I had to add to it. But I mean, the higher the volume, higher the volatility, you're a little bit safer here around the edges of the EMA band. So that would have been a good one. Let's see if I, this one was a maybe, right? But I mean, again, the scale here is that there's actually multiple points here that were available, meaning that even if you got in here, let's say at 1.5, I mean, the bottom was 88. So the scale here seems to be, is a little bit different than what we're used to looking at, right? 5-minute moving average holding, right? Little noisy in here. It's not really great time. 718 it might usually tries to do something. Here's a double bottom around the 5-minute moving average, right? But everything else didn't look really pretty at that point, right? And then here when it's breaking down out of the 5-minute moving average and the volume point of control and mid S2, then it gets a little bit more interesting, and see it comes down again. The EMA band is close to the edge, may be okay on high volatility days, right? High volume, high volatility days. Then this is a clue that you better hang on a second and make sure you know what's going on. And then again, a roll off here. No volume to speak of here, right? The market's getting a little bit slower, and no volume here, but ultimately very consistent movement. And then so that would have been an interesting trade. And then not too much going on there. I think after 8 o'clock, it started to get maybe a little bit more interesting, if I remember right. I wasn't watching it. Here, so there's some rejection here, right? I'm always looking for rejection. I prefer some rejection with volume, but some rejection there. Pretty good rejection here as well, right? After it tested the minute average, right? Pretty good rejection there. So a rejection bar there, rejection bar here, right? And push down further. This is, finally an expansion, right, after a 3x Renko, breaking the value low area, right? So like I said, there were more trades available today. I just didn't necessarily feel too good. So here's some volume, right? So volume from the bottom. Here's an expansion from the bottom, right? An expansion around the EMA, right? Wouldn't take it yet. Let it make sure it's going to continue. But at this point, now we've got all the flexes lined up, right? I'm not sure I would still in today. I'm not sure I would have taken it here, right? But as you're getting hammered here with more, 2-bar combinations, then maybe, right, anywhere in here, I mean, surely you would have, you certainly got at least a point there, right? Coming through here, expansion, and the continuation. What I often look at, if I'm going to be pressing it a little bit, and this is a big press, is just look at the bars to see if there's any consistency in the movement, right? You get an up bar, it's kind of toying around. It's not really, there's no sellers, which is what they're doing. This is what the buyers are doing, right? They're waiting to see if anybody's going to hit it on the selling side, and nobody does, so it goes up some more. Same is true as it's going down as well, right? Sometimes they pause a little bit and looking forward to see what's going to go on. And then we're just a little bit after 8 o'clock. Nothing, I mean, there's some trades there, but nothing is exceptionally lined up. And I'm not sure what was going on there, but it really kind of rolled over there. And that's it to about 8:30. So, and there are more trades later on in the day as well. But I was at 7.5 points and not trading heavily on a day like today. But I was okay. Took a couple more trades, 9.5 points for the day, which is good. I mean, I'm not complaining about it at all. Maybe I'll get a little bit more sleep tonight. I'm not expecting tomorrow to be nearly as volatile. I mean, let's take a look while we're here at the news. There is some news tomorrow, but compared to what we have today, it wasn't as much. But then again, we've got the banking sector, the financial sector, that has some issues. We are going to have. Today was Wednesday. I need to get into Thursday. So at 5:30, we're going to have unemployment, right, which will be important. And, building permits and housing starts. And then an ECB, a European Central Bank press conference at 6:45. I mean, this is not isolated to the U.S. In fact, some of the, today, the big down move was European, not completely European beta, it was Credit Suisse. I'm not sure how you pronounce their name, which is based in Switzerland, but they've got a big global footprint. So they were kind of the news today. So the European Central Bank may be talking about that tomorrow. And so we'll just have to see how tomorrow goes. I don't think it will be as volatile as today, but it could still be reasonably volatile. The financial sector is in a little bit of a turmoil, and we did end up down today, above yesterday's close, right? Yesterday's low, but and so far the market in the overnight session is doing okay. Yesterday's close was at 39.22, and we're at 39.43. So the market is up about 20. These things don't really reset until I close my chart and open them back up. So it says we're down 12, but that's relative to yesterday, not today's close. All right, so reasonable trading is going on, and in good profits, and which is good. It's always good to have good profits back to back on consistent days. So any questions on that, or any other questions? Yeah, and I'm using a pretty big stop to make sure I'm not really kind of nervous about where my stop is. And on volatile days, it instead of kind of being quiet and you kind of get sucked into a position, and then you maybe add to it and it's not doing too much and it goes the other way. With volatile days, right? Just let it come back to something and see if it's going to react, and then add to it and get out. My stop right now is at 40 ticks, so I do have a stop, and 40 ticks has been adequate to not make me feel pressured about it, and so I can trade and not worry about it too terribly much. 40 ticks is 10 points, and but I would likely make a decision before then, right? Which is fine. That means I'm being a trader and I'm making a decision, but I'm not just staring at my stop and worrying that it's going to hit it if it was, less than that. And I'm not spending any time, canceling it or moving it. I'm paying attention to the market, which is really what we should be doing, right? So I'm paying attention to the bars and the indicators and that sort of stuff, and doing what I need to do, and being pretty, a little bit more conservative, or hopefully a lot more conservative. I'm not chasing it too much, and I'm keeping everything at all my exits at one point. Sure, maybe I can make a little bit more money if I move the profit target, but I'm not necessarily worried about it. If if I need more, what I do, this is what I do. Instead of picking a new stop, and I'm not, this is for me, I'm not necessarily suggesting this is what everybody do. I will, so that I don't have to worry about that again, I will usually cancel the stop just so I can go back to concentrating on the candles and the indicators. Right? If I need to reverse, I'll reverse. In high volatility markets, right, as long as you stay away from news and those sorts of things, there's a little bit more of opportunities to add to, get out, and those sorts of things. I haven't been in a big position for a while. I think today I had 2 units. Maximum I had 2 units. I think at some point this week I had 3. And as it turns out, I really didn't need to have 3. I would have been okay with maintaining 2. But I had 3, because it was coming toward me. I wanted to get out and look for another trade. It's slow markets, I think. I think I'm actually better at a little more volatile, little faster markets. I think it's the slow markets that get me more than anything else, and I'll have to think about that. Sometimes, there's one day, right? Remember the day? I'm not sure if it was a day that you're in the room or not, but it was kind of an ugly morning. It was kind of a bad trading day, and I had to add to it a couple of times and wasn't really agreeing with him. I came out fine. I mean, I was profitable and everything, and made multiple points, but it just wasn't any fun. I mean, market just wasn't moving much, and so if that's the case, then who knows? Maybe I'll avoid those days, or if it's a really kind of a slow morning and not doing too much, waiting until after 7. When a trend starts a little bit more, and just to grab something for the day, so it's not a no trade kind of a day, even though that's fine if you have days. I'm not sure when the last time I had a no trade day, but anyway, you could do that, right? Wait until after 7 for some trend to develop, and some traders actually do that. I mean, I get in there and mix it up with them in the first 30 minutes, and a lot of times that's when the majority of my profits are made. And market slows down after 7:30, and I can walk away with having made profits. Alrighty, so that's kind of what's going on. Yeah, the faster the market is, it's, in my opinion, like I was saying, the faster the market is, then it's best not to have, kind of stick with the trend, see if it's going to come back, wait for it to hit some support, wait for some good bars, those sorts of things, and add to it and get out. And it's the slow markets that you'll overthink, you'll reverse when you shouldn't have, you'll dig a little hole. And so it's the slow markets that get me. This is almost like, what's the expression? Shooting fish in a barrel, or I can't, something like that. Anyway, it's been pretty. These volatile days have been pretty fun. Wasn't that much fun today because I didn't feel it too good, but the results were the same. Alrighty, anything else? All right, you too. Hopefully you warm up a little bit. I'll stop complaining about Arizona weather. Right. Okay, have a good evening. We'll see you again soon.